I should ask question numbers 35 through 37. So when I make an offer, what contingencies should I include? I really think that this section should be called, or this segment should be called, what contingencies could I include? Because depending on the market that you're in will determine what contingencies are available to you. While there are a litany of things you can put into a contract, any additional contingency will make the seller reconsider whether or not they should sell their home to you. In a buyer's market, you have more flexibility. And a buyer's market is really just one where the property stays on the market for an extended period of time.
hmm Yeah, well, what I would say to that is that she mentions in one part of the book, she actually does mention that when you add contingencies, those are just more reasons for a seller not to accept your offer. But we're going to cover today are going to be some contingencies we see quite often. The ones that we typically see are, we're not going to say standard because they can be added. And we'll also talk about some scenarios in which they are not included. But there are two that we see all the time are pretty frequently in nearly all sales contracts. So a contingency is going to be a clause within the sales contract that's going to give the buyer an out. So once you ratify your sales contract, that's it. You're locked in to buy this house. Well, there are a couple of scenarios within the ratification or escrow period. There are a couple of scenarios in which the buyer can back out of the sales contract. And so we're going to talk about what a few of those are. And to start, we have the contingencies we see most often, which are going to be the financing contingency. And we have different forms for each type of loan. So whether you're using a VA loan, a FHA loan, or a conventional loan, each of those has a different contingency that are worded slightly differently. And then the other contingency we see on nearly all offers is going to be your home inspection contingency, which also includes a clause for radon testing.
Now, I know we're not going to mention this one, but I do want to let you all know that there is also a contingency tied to the title of the property, which just says that you need to have clear title. Since that contingency isn't really something that is quote unquote negotiated, it's in every contract.
It's in the standard sales contract.
Right. So we're not going to really mention that, but I do want to let you know that that in some states, depending on where you are, some of you all may be used to an attorney review or some type of a clause that says that I need to make sure that the owner of the property is the owner who's selling the property.
That's true. So we're covering questions 35 through 37 today. We're not going to include 38, and we probably won't even cover question 38 because question 38 is about attorney review, which we do not do in Virginia.
Right. I mean, our attorney review is already just baked into the contract, so you don't necessarily have to quote unquote negotiate that into your terms. So we're talking about the things that you would negotiate into the terms of the contract. So let's talk about the financing contingency.
Okay, well, before we do that, we actually want to go into some of the other lesser used contingencies. So the two that we see most often are going to be the home and the financing, but then we also have a contingency and clauses. Excuse me.
When you say home, you mean home inspection, right?
Home inspection, yes. Excuse me. So we also have the contingency and the clauses and contingency addendum, and that is going to be for just certain scenarios. It's actually probably the longest addendum because it's kind of like a catch-all where various different options can be checked off throughout the document. But the two we see most often are going to be a clause where a seller has to find a new home. So that gives the seller the option to find a home of choice. So essentially that means that if a buyer finds a property and they make an offer on it, seller says, great, you want to buy my home? Well, now I have to find another home. So that is a contingency that we sometimes see. And then the second one is going
just to clarify though, what you're stating is that the seller has a contingency themselves that says that you can put my home under contract, I'll take it off the market, but now I have X number of days to find a property myself. If the seller doesn't find a property, then the contract is going to essentially be voided because the seller doesn't have anywhere to move.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. You can continue.
Okay. And then the second one is if the buyer has a home to sell themselves. So let's say you own a home and you're not a first time home buyer. You own a home and you're purchasing a new home. Well, you need the funds from your current house in order to be able to buy this house. So then you would check off that contingency saying that the buyer must sell their current property in order to move forward with this transaction. Now, sometimes we'll even see that sellers will say, it'll say in the listing remarks that sellers will not accept a home sale contingency.
Yes, that's a rare event, but it's usually tied to a real estate agent that's been burned in the past, or if they had another contract that fell through.
Yeah, or in a scenario when the seller, bless you, when the
Thank you.
seller does not have the option to wait, so they need
Right.
to move more quickly.
Good point.
Okay. So we're going to talk a little bit about the financing contingency, which is question 30. What is the finance contingency? So
36.
I'm sorry, I said 26.
You said 30.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Hmm.
Question 36.
Hmm.
And that is going to give the buyer the opportunity to back out if they are not able to get loan approval.
Yeah, I wouldn't really say that it's a back out clause, but it is a clause that helps you to iron out some of the details of the contract, because the way the home buying process works is a little jarring when you consider the fact that you go see a property, maybe in the property for 15 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes is a lot of time, but you go see a property for 15 minutes, and then you decide whether or not you're going to spend a $500,000 to $3 million on this property.
Mhm.
So the contingencies, in my opinion, are a process of you really getting to know the property and ironing out all of the details. So on the financing side, you go to the lender. The lender says, and this is before you actually find the house, hey, look, you can purchase, based on your information you've given us, you could purchase this amount of property, or you can receive this amount of loan. So the contingency allows you to iron out all those details, make sure the lender wasn't lying to you, because there's so many lenders available now, and so many people are doing a lot more online shopping, that the legitimacy of these corporations or organizations have to be kind of flushed out. So this gives you time as a consumer to flush out those details.
Yes. Now, your financing contingency is going to be tied to the specific type of loan that was indicated on the sales contract. So, if you said you're using a VA loan, that means you have to apply for a VA loan. It's important that whatever financing you implied on the sales contract is what you apply for, because in the event that your loan is not approved, you're going to need a rejection letter from the lender saying that you were rejected for the type of loan that was on the sales contract. So, if for any reason you decide to change your financing, you would need to add an addendum, have everyone sign it, and the seller would have to agree to you changing your financing. And you would also need to add that appropriate addendum for the change in financing. Okay, now the addendum is also going to spell out how long you have to get your financing in order. So typically, I mean, it really depends on the market and your lender. Some lenders can get your loan approved in 10 to 14 days. Other lenders need a full 30 days. So, really, this is going to be something that you would talk to your lender about before you ever make your first offer, because you need to make sure that you're hitting every deadline. And when those contingencies are removed, then you're no longer able to void your sales contract for that reason.
If you have a VA loan, you should just expect it to be over 21, 22 days.
Hmm.
So usually on the conventional financing products, we see lenders have a little bit more flexibility as far as how quickly they can close a loan, because they have more control over that process. But when it comes to government-backed loans, just give just don't have any unrealistic expectations. Also, if your lender says that they can close a loan in a given time period, just ask them if they've done it in the past. You don't want it. You don't want somebody to kind of put you in the contract, because you're not in a contract with the lender. But if you give them all your documents, you've already put all this effort and resources into this process. Somebody could sway you and say, "Oh, I can get the loan closed quicker."
Yeah, well, that kind of actually brings us to the next point. You mentioned the VA loan. So usually the holdup with VA loans is actually the appraisal, because the sales contract recommends we give 21 days for an appraisal, but many lenders can expedite when you're using a conventional loan. Lenders can expedite that process and get that appraisal turned around more quickly. That is not an option for VA loans, and so sometimes, especially in a busy market, we come down to that 21st or that 22nd day with VA loans, which is why our lenders always recommend with the VA loan that we try to, if we can, get a 30-day closing, and give them the time to get the financing in order. So that brings me to the appraisal clause, which says, and it's included in all three financing contingencies, that says you have until a certain period of time to get the home appraised. And then you have various options in the event that the home does not appraise. If the home does not appraise, just like if your loan is not approved, if your loan's not appraised, excuse me, if the home does not appraise and it comes in at lower than the sales contract price, then you have the option to request that the seller reduce the price, so that you can still go through with the loan. However, if the seller is not willing to reduce the price, then you do have the option to void the sales contract per these financing addendum.
Or you could just increase. You could just bring more money to the table.
Depending on a loan, that's not possible with all loans.
Right. So you'll find that in a fast moving market, people are just paying the difference between the sales price and the appraised value, because in a fast moving market or in a appreciating market like the one we anticipate seeing this coming spring, the appraisers are actually going to be behind the market, or they're going to be lagging, right? So people are just going to spend some more money. Either it's going to come out their down payment, or they're going to increase their down payment to cover the shortfall.
Mm-hmm. Well, I also wanted to cover this first time home buyer tip. I saw you highlighted here because we also want to talk about scenarios in which sometimes these contingencies are not included. So here we talk about if a lender gives you a full commitment. We have one lender that we work with quite often, and she's able to give full loan commitments, or her company, I should say, is able to give full loan commitments before we find a property. So then the only thing we're waiting on is the appraisal. So last year, when the market was really hot, we saw a lot of people waiving the finance contingency if they already had full loan commitment, and the only thing the bank needed was the appraisal. So in that scenario, and actually because of that, they the board created a new document that's for financing with someone who is just needs an appraisal, which was not a addendum we previously had, because what we had was agents writing their own essentially addendum saying that there's no financing contingency, but there is an appraisal contingency. And so in a market like we saw last year, we did see a lot of buyers. A lot. I mean, a lot of successful buyers, right? The buyers who were able to secure properties.
Right. I guess we should add, because we have some people watching right now. We're in Northern Virginia, so we're giving you our perspective of this book in the Northern Virginia real estate market, because in other markets this may not be the case, but we only work in Northern Virginia, so we just want to give you that caveat when we talk about what happened or what is happening. We're talking about in our local market.
Yes. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that if the lender gives you that full approval, then you can no longer have that contingency to use to back out of the sales contract. So if you're not including a financing contingency, then that means that if for some reason unless the bank folds, if for some reason you're not able to get financing, even though you were told on the front end that you have full approval, you will not be able to use that as a caveat to void the contract.
Yep, which is one of the reasons why a lot of banks do not like to give out this letter, because they would like to have the option to cancel the loan or not move forward in the future.
Yeah, but like I said, we do have a lender who does offer full loan commitments beforehand, and they also have a proper they also have a program, a product that allows them to give you a appraised value where they guarantee that they won't appraise the home for less than X, and they'll give you that before you make an offer as well. So a lot of creative products we saw come out as a result of the market over the last 2 years, and we also saw that in some of the changes that were made to the contract.
Right. The products that we mentioned are only available at the time we mention them, because a lot of lenders will remove these products because they don't necessarily have the need to be in such a risky position, because those products that we just mentioned are a little bit more risky for the business or the lender. And if the market, while the market is slowing down a little bit, we have less properties going under contract or selling above the asking price. You may not need to use these extreme tactics.
Agreed.
All right. Let's see. I don't think anything else in the the financing contingency section. So let's talk about the home inspect. Well, did you want to talk about anything else in the financing?
No, that was it. I just wanted to make sure I touched on that first time buyer one that she had.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about home inspection contingencies or inspection contingencies.
Okay, so next up we have our home inspection and radon testing contingency. So this is going to include your home inspection, but also radon. So it has 3 different sections on this sales contract. And we see home inspections either one or 2 ways in Northern Virginia. We see a home inspection with the option to negotiate or void. And then we have a home inspection with the option, with the option to void only. So when we see a home inspection with option to negotiate, essentially that gives you the opportunity to negotiate repairs if there are some glaring issues or things that you want to have addressed by the seller prior to closing, even if you want to ask for some type of credit. That's going to be option A. And because we're talking about contingencies, and contingencies allow you to get out of the sales contract. If for some reason you decide you no longer want to move forward, you have the option to cancel the contract.
Right. Another way to look at the home inspection contingency or the inspection contingency is that this allows you to verify what you're purchasing. So, in it, like we already mentioned, a traditional showing lasts between 15 to 30 minutes. You're not looking at all of the windows, all of the appliances, all of the space in general. You kind of get an idea of the if this layout works. So the inspection contingency is important because you verify what you're purchasing. And then the next thing is it gives you a almost like a user manual for the property, because a lot of sellers, I mean, in the Northern Virginia, we have a lot of split settlements. So that means that the buyer is going to go to the closing table at one time and they're going to sign all their documents. And then the seller is going to go to the closing table at another time and they're going to sign all their documents. The reason why I mentioned this is because in the olden days, it used to be the buyer and seller would close at the same time and they would be across from one another. And during that closing, there would be an exchange of information. So the buyer would have questions about the property and then the seller would answer those questions. Now, it would be questions that would cause the sale to be ruined or canceled. It would just be like, oh, how do I use this? How do I use that? And then the seller, oftentimes, especially if they've lived in a property for a long period of time, they would have like a list of things they want to get off of their agenda, as far as like, okay, great, like this neighbor is like this, you just want to be mindful of this, or I have this plant in the backyard, this is what it needs. We don't have that exchange of information anymore. So I believe that home inspection contingencies serve much more than the purpose of finding out what's broken or what works. It also gives you that manual.
Okay, well, speaking of that manual, you will get the full home inspection report from your home inspector. So we say you're going to have a home inspection. That means you're going to have a licensed home inspector come in, evaluate the property, and they're going to give you, depending on your home inspector, it could be anywhere from 12 pages to, 60 or 70 pages of things, whether it's, some safety concerns, minor issues, major issues. And so this is going to be, as Abraham said, your handbook. It could be a list of things that are working perfectly fine, but maybe in 2 to 3 years, you may want to reevaluate. So it's going to give you some helpful tips on how you can maintain this home, but also the home inspector is going to show you where the water, where you can turn the water off and things like that, because obviously you wouldn't know that just from viewing the home for 15 to 30 minutes. Now, this report also comes in handy should you decide to void the contract, because if you decide to void the contract, then you have to present this report. Don't have to say why you're voiding it, but you do have to present the report with your notice to void the sales contract. And likewise, if you plan to ask for repairs, you have to present this report with your list of repairs or your request for a credit.
I would add to this, the report is not a replacement for attending the home inspection. So sometimes we have clients who will come to the home inspection and they will be preoccupied. So they'll try to do work, and or they'll be measuring things, which is fine. I just think that it makes sense for you to follow the home inspector around and get that person's perspective on how to use your property
Okay.
or potential property.
All right. And so just one last bit of housekeeping. So we talked about having the home inspection report, how you're going to submit that in the event of asking for repairs or if you want to void. And just want to point out that your home inspection is for a certain period. So in your sales contract, you're going to outline how long of a period you have to turn that report in. And in the event that you're doing a traditional inspection with the option to negotiate or void, in the sales contract, in the home inspection contingency, it's going to say how long you have to negotiate after you have submitted that report to the seller. And it also is going to say that if you cannot come to terms with the seller, how long you have after that timeline has expired to void the contract. So you want to make sure you're paying attention to all these dates and that your agent is sharing with you what these timelines are to make sure that your contingency is not removed because the time has expired. So make sure you're paying attention to all those dates because all contingencies expire at a certain point.
Right. If you use our services, we provide you with an outline of all your timelines or your deadlines at the beginning of the process. If you use another agent and they don't provide that information to you, just go through your contract and put all the dates in a calendar on your, on whatever electronic device you use. And that'll help you to make sure or ensure you hit your deadlines in the event that you don't have somebody like Crystal on your team.
Mhm. And then just remember also, we use calendar days here in Northern Virginia. So weekends count, holidays count. So if it says 5 days, 5 days from today. Okay. All right, and then finally on that same addendum, we're going to talk about radon testing. In some areas of Northern Virginia, radon levels can be higher than recommended by the EPA, and so you many buyers choose to have radon testing done at the same time of their home inspection. And so this addendum says that the buyer is going to have this done, and the seller is agreeing to allow this canister to be placed in their basement and to not leave it. I mean, excuse me, and to leave it alone until it's picked up by the technician, but it also says that the seller agrees not to open the windows to sway the testing results. And so at the end of that period, the technician will come back to retrieve the canister and share the results. And if the results are above the levels that have been if the radon report confirms that the presence of radon equals or exceeds the action level established by the EPA, then the buyer will have the option to ask for the radon to be
Mitigated.
mitigated or to void the sales contract.
Right. I recommend that every property that you purchase has a radon inspection for my new construction buyers out there, because we do have a lot of new construction buyers who reach out to us. You want to have your radon inspection test done after you move into the property, because no builder is going to guarantee that they're not going to open the doors. They're going to keep the property in a similar condition. So you want to double check that information, because the builder won't know if the radon levels are high, because they're just building on these properties, and radon is can be very dangerous at different levels, at higher levels.
Mhm. And there are several, because we do have in some areas issues with radon. There are lots of companies in the area that can offer mitigation.
Yep.
Okay. Now, next up, we're going to talk about when you don't need a home inspection. And do you think there are any scenarios in which a buyer doesn't need a home inspection?
Um, I don't think that there are any. I recommend a home inspection for every scenario. I will say though, if you have so if you're in a hot market, putting a home inspection into the clause just may be challenging. So you have to be realistic about the market that you're in, and we sometimes have to have a conversation with our clients about the fact that the goal of this whole process isn't to make offers, is actually to win
Mm,
property. So depending on what your strategy is at the time, but I do think that every property should be inspected, from resale properties, which are lived in homes, to new construction properties. So I can't really think of a property I wouldn't recommend getting inspected.
okay. Well, so I want to share two different scenarios, both of which you still get a home inspection. So, as Abraham said, depending on the market and how aggressive it is, it can be challenging to get an offer with a home inspection, excuse me, a home inspection accepted. And so, we have seen a few changes to the market over the last few years. One of those being walk and talk inspections, where you have a home inspector meet with you during the showing to kind of just walk the property with you. Now, that's not an inspection by any means, but it's really just them walking around, kind of eyeballing things, seeing if they can see anything visually that causes pause for them. So we see a lot of that happening in the hot market. And then another thing is another contract change that we saw over the last year or so, which is a clause within the sales contract. So this is not a separate addendum, a clause we saw in the residential sales contract that says the buyer is not having a home inspection. However, the seller will permit them, or excuse me, they're not going to have a home inspection contingency. However, the seller will permit them access to the property to have an inspection done by a licensed home inspector. You have to provide the date, like a range of dates that you would plan on having that done. It's included in the sales contract, and it clearly states you can have this home inspection. However, you cannot use this for any reason to get out of the sales contract. So because of the changing market, we started to see that more often as well. So that's a new thing that was added, again, in this market that we've been in within the last 24 months. So we've seen a few different changes to the contract. So that gives the buyer the opportunity to have the home inspected. It'll give them the peace of mind of having the home inspected, but you do lose that critical piece, which is the opportunity to walk away if there is something, something that just really would typically blow up a deal.
Right. So like a major problem.
Hmm.
So that answers the questions. I don't think that there is a scenario when you don't need an inspection. I also don't think that bringing a family member who says that they know what they're talking about to the property is a replacement for an inspection.
Not even a contractor.
Not
Like
even a
just
contract.
just have a licensed home inspector come through. They're going to know more than even your general contractor, but also they're licensed, right? So that's a plus. They're licensed for this. They're not licensed to build anything. They're licensed to do this testing. But then also, as Abraham said, they give you that manual that you can refer to time and time again over the course of owning your home.
Well, I would say that even if a contractor probably knows as much as a home inspector, it's just that a home inspector is looking for things that a contractor just doesn't know what to look for.
Mhm.
They're not trained to
It's two
test.
different, yes, it's two different things. It's two different industries. Excellent. So that's it for our typical home inspection. Now, just a few other inspections that we sometimes see. If the home was built before 1978, you do have the option to have lead based paint testing. And then she mentioned here in the book, if you wanted to have a termite inspection, a wood destroy and insect inspection clause is included in our typical residential sales contract. So there is no separate addendum for that.
Lastly, on our list or in the book, it mentions should you have a condo inspected? This is so condo inspections are going to cost less money because the home inspectors know that more people don't really see a value in them, so they bring the cost down. I think that the home inspection for the condo is important, especially because most people don't know that your air conditioning system in most condos is actually managed by you. So this is one of the biggest things that you would get the seller to repair or at least service on your end, and to test out the appliances. Most condos, you don't own the windows, so the windows are owned by the association. And this book made some silly recommendations, or not silly, but it said that the condo inspection may look at the building heating, electrical, and plumbing systems and check out the roof and foundation and parking structure and the windows. I have never
Okay.
seen a home inspector look at the major systems, because the assumption is that if you're buying into a condo association, that their bylaws will determine or dictate like who manages or maintain what areas. So while you may look at those areas, you don't have any really say
Hmm.
in the maintenance of those areas. Now, the electrical system, I think that the author here is saying your electrical system for your unit. So oftentimes condos will have individual electrical panels, and that's true. The home inspector will look at that. But as far as like looking at the parking structure, that is not realistic. I haven't seen a home inspector do that yet.
Hmm.
One more thing I want to note: when you're doing a condo inspection, some condos units have like little window units or little these units that are just self-sufficient, and they're just one piece inside the unit. A lot of units, even if they're high rises, they have just traditional
Central air.
central air and heating unit. So that means that there is a outdoor condenser unit that the home inspector has to go find. Usually, it's on the roof, and the roof is not a place for regular people. It's quite, it looks dangerous. So I always recommend for my condo buyers that they get the home inspection. It's just a part of the process of buying a property. Why try to save $400 when you can learn as much as possible about your property before you move in and determine if there are any deal breakers that you're not currently aware of?
Excellent.
All right, so that is our buyer question for today. So we went through questions 35 to 37. What contingencies should you include in your offer? So right now we're about to answer your questions. any questions that you may have about the home buying process, where the home buying, home selling, or investing in real estate. We are in Northern Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C., so we can answer any question that you may have. If we can't find or if we don't know the answer right now, then we will find the answer and answer it on an upcoming show. While we wait for you to put your questions down below, there is a link in the description to the Perfect Home Questionnaire. Fill out that form, and we will schedule a time to meet online via Zoom to answer any and all of your questions about real estate. So you want to use that link if you're buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate.
And if you're watching us from TikTok, the link is in our bio.
So the next segment is going to be 100 questions every home seller should ask, and we're talking about what is curb appeal. What is curb appeal? So ask your questions. We're going to wait a couple seconds, or maybe a minute or two, for any questions that may come through. I'm going to take a sip of my water.
Very good.
All right, so we do have a question on YouTube. All right, the question is, what are some things you don't like about a home being part of an HOA? What are some things? I think the main problem with an HOA, well, there's a couple problems, a couple things I dislike. First of all, with the HOA, you are agreeing to pool your money together to take care of the common area. You're not only pooling your money together, you're also saying that you and everyone else in the HOA owns this piece of land. So that means that if there's a lawsuit, you open yourself up to lawsuits, because the HOA is going to most likely get sued by one of the members in the future. That lawsuit, whether it's successfully litigated or defended or not, that's going to cost you some money in the future. So I dislike that. I also dislike the control that some of the HOAs have or do not administer. So we've seen some HOAs that are well run. Like we live in Kingstowne, which is one of the larger planned communities in Northern Virginia, and because we live in Kingstowne, this HOA is I would say ran very well.
Mm-hmm.
But we have heard of large HOAs that are not ran that well. And the larger HOAs give you access to things that you really can't find in smaller communities. Like we have 2 pools, 2 gyms, we have walking trails, we have tennis courts. We have things that you really couldn't even offset by even going to like a country, like a gym.
Yeah, if you would have to go to a rec center to get the same type of amenities
Right.
that are just included in our neighborhood. So what I would say I dislike about HOAs, because I actually really like HOAs, but there is something I dislike about them. And what I dislike about them is going to be the tedium, like the control in really minor details when it comes to exterior maintenance. We had a client once who replaced the lamp post, but they didn't like the lamp post. It was such a minor thing. But they didn't have an application on file for the lamppost. The lamppost was fine. It's not that the lamppost was incorrect. It wasn't that. It was just that the client had failed to put an application in to change the lamppost. So it's the little things like that. And we always get those little things, like someone changed the light fixture out in front of their house. It's usually small things like that. That's what gets me. We have a client now who they want them to change the color of the stain.
The deck.
The deck.
Yes.
And so just those little things like that can just be like a hassle to deal with. Like you think you want to have your deck stained, so you call the handyman over, you have him stain the deck, and then you find out that you actually you should have gone through this application process where you submit an application and they let you know, hey, you can use the sienna brown, or you can't. Now, what I do like, some HOAs do a really good job of having approved colors already set up. So you can just go on their website and see what the approved colors are. But then you have others that, you have to put in an application and then wait for them to have a meeting so they can get back to you to let you know if it's approved or not. So it's the tedium that really bothers me.
Another thing I dislike about HOAs is the fact that you really don't own your property. So there is this misconception that, you pay off your mortgage and now you own your property. That's not true. The person who really owns your property is the local government, because you pay taxes to them. So that means that is a mortgage payment that you never get rid of. The other mortgage payment you never get rid of in an HOA is the HOA fees. If you miss a certain number of HOA fees, they could foreclose on your property. Anyone who could foreclose on your property, I view as a percentage of ownership. It's just that most people look at it as, oh, I'm just concerned about the bank. That's not the case. The HOA also has a percentage, indirect percentage of ownership that you just have to constantly be aware of. Those fees can increase if the HOA is poorly managed. Okay, so I'll give you another thing I dislike about HOAs. It's not necessarily tied to the HOA, but it's tied to how HOAs are managed, or at least how buyers perceive them. Sometimes we'll have buyer clients who say, I want to buy a condo. Condo fees and HOA fees are similar. So they'll say, I want to buy a condo, I want to go into HOA, but I want the HOA fees to be low. Low HOA fees, what does that mean? The HOA fees are designed to pool together capital to provide routine maintenance and to have some level of cushion in the event that an event,
Exactly.
a once in every 10-year event occurs. If your HOA fees or your condo fees are too low or so low that you don't have like a reserve account, then all you're saying is that
you're kicking a can down the road.
Yeah, you're kicking a can down the road, and there will be a special assessment in the future. And those special assessments, you can't begin to imagine the liabilities that a large organization just has because of its exposure. So that's another reason why I dislike HOAs.
And also with inflation, because again, Abraham said, where you're putting money into the reserves, you're talking about how much money it costs to upkeep the area. So as prices increase for things, for services, then guess what's going to happen? Your HOA fees are going to increase. And HOA fees go up pretty much every year. It's, a few dollars here, a few dollars there. If you look at a listing, a home that's on the market now, it has $115 HOA fee. 5 years ago, that HOA fee was $100.
Right.
And so it's just a few dollars here and there, but over time it does add up.
And you should want it to add up.
Yes, you do want it to add up.
it to add up. Okay, so we have another comment about HOAs, and this is from Groove on YouTube. It seems like a lot of homes in Northern Virginia, Prince George County, Maryland, are part of HOAs. Well, I know in Northern Virginia, more than 70% of all transactions are in HOAs or condos, right?
Yeah.
So you have some additional fee tied to them. Groove also says, thanks for answering my question. So we have another person who commented about HOAs on TikTok. And this person says, I hate HOAs and the power they have to take action against your home. Yeah, that's just what you agreed to. One of the reasons why we see so many HOAs in Northern Virginia, or really just in most suburban places, is the HOA actually is making a deal with the county, the local government, that they are going to take on some of the responsibility, which now entices the local government to allow that developer to make that development. Because here's the thing that most people don't consider or haven't considered. Suburban neighborhoods actually lose money for most local governments, because a suburban neighborhood, the builder lays the first road, right? So the builder lays the road, they lay the plumbing, they lay all of the major infrastructure. Once the development is sold, now that infrastructure has moved on to the local government.
Unless you have a HOA.
Exactly. And so these HOAs, while I know that a lot of people dislike the fee, they dislike the control, this is a quote unquote a win-win scenario for the local government and for the community to have the amenities they have, the type of houses they have as well. All right, so we have another comment about HOAs. Our people having a say over my house and my choices is a problem. And then the people, yeah, I hate having HOAs, period. All right, so while people having a say over your house is seen as a negative, one thing you want to consider is that with an HOA, you also know what the agreement that everyone else has agreed to, right? In a neighborhood where there is no HOA, there is no protection for your home value,
Exactly.
for your neighbor doing something ostentatious or
that could drive down the value of your home. So I love HOAs, and the reason I like them and why I will probably choose to live in them is because of the fact that when you do not have that sense of order, then there's nothing protecting your property value, because when a buyer is looking at a home, they are buying a neighborhood. So when you're part of an HOA, there's this cohesiveness to the homes, to the area. And it also keeps us from doing some out of line things that we might be inclined to do. Everyone knows on our block that your grass has to be cut. Everyone knows that you can't park commercial vehicles in your driveway. Everyone knows that you can't have a bunch of cars parked in front of your house, and that your home has to be pressure washed however many times a year to make sure that it stays clean. And this is for the benefit of the entire community. And so if you were to have a home that was in disrepair and one of the neighbors wants to sell their home, well, that neighbor next door with the overrun yard, that could affect your resale value.
Which is really all an HOA is really designed to do. The HOA is really designed to protect your property value, which most people care more about their equity position than their ability to put pink flamingos in their front yard.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So somebody else says HOA is just another tax levied by the corporate government. Actually, it's not by the corporate government. It's just by your neighbors.
Your neighbors.
So your neighbors are levying this tax. And I would also say
it's your co-owners, though. They
right.
Yeah, it's your co-owners.
I would also say I know that people like small government, but there are some benefits to pooling capital together to handle a big project, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, we live in Kingstowne. We like living in Kingstowne. Actually, we may move to Del Rey in the future when we get older, but outside of that area, I like structured environments and I don't like managing people. So the HOA allows me to have a level of management that I don't even have to be involved in.
We don't have to think about it now. We haven't had snow this year, but when there is snow, we don't even think about it. We're like, oh yeah, like the HOA is going to take care of that. All we have to do is dig our car out, and we have friends, or we know people who don't live in HOAs, and they're like, I'm home for a few days. Why are you home for a few days? Because the ice is on the road.
Yes. I would also say that in an HOA, you have this. So Northern Virginia is I would say it's almost soulless because it's just a giant suburb. Now, I'm not talking about Arlington. I'm not talking about the city of Alexandria. And
you mean the suburbs of Fairfax County and Loudon, Prince William County.
Yeah, some of those areas are just soulless. An HOA gives you this common this community feel that it's almost like paying into a membership, really, to be honest with you. And it gives you that sense of pride that like I live here, we live here, we're together, type of thing. So I agree, HOAs have their negative sides to them. I think that the benefits of the HOA, especially because in Northern Virginia you're paying so much money for a home, you don't want that investment tinkered with just because your neighbor has a different perspective of how they should dry their clothing outside, right?
Yeah.
like how they or whether or not urban farming, right? Or if they should have like a chickens and stuff in their backyards. Hey, don't get me wrong, you could be free, just go further out to the west, right? So yeah, that's my opinion of HOAs. But thank you so much for that question. We love to have these little riffs. Post your questions down below if you have any questions about buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate. We're in the Northern Virginia area, and that is our specialty. I've been in business for 14 years. My wife has been in the real estate business industry for
about 10 now.
10 years. All right, so great point on the benefits of HOA. Excellent. Yes. So Franco will clip this part of the video.
Make it a whole separate video.
Excellent. It will be delicious. Delicious. Oh, one more thing before we move on to our question, our seller question. We go live Monday through Thursday at
10 a.m.
So that's where you can catch us. If you know anyone that's looking for or that's in the real estate market at this time, buying a home, selling a home, investing in real estate, send them to our show where they can get their answers, their questions answered live, and we'll be happy to answer questions. Okay, before we move on to our next point, I want to address another question or another comment I saw made. This was a comment made on our new construction video. So there's a new construction. So we do new construction videos or property tours on our YouTube channel. You can find those. Our TikTok people, they could find like a version or
a snippet, usually like 1 to 3 minutes.
So those snippets are from a full-on property tour that we add to our YouTube channel. This individual this morning said that they just like the type of property tour we do, because he said that I put my hands in the videos too much.
Mhm.
And he also, or this individual said that I talk too much during the property tour. So I just wanted to address that, because the comment was made, and I
Mhm.
like to address comments, because I don't want to leave
Gray
any gray
area.
areas. We know that there are other real estate channels that provide property tours. We know that. Those channels, they don't talk during the tours. It's just like a welcome to the home. Like, this home has this many bedrooms, this many bathrooms, and then they play some music. I find those property tours to be boring. Not only do I find those properties to be boring, you're going through the property with a real estate agent. Real estate agent. If I'm a real estate agent and I'm going through, I want to go experience the property, and I want to take you with me. So our style of property tours is so that you can kind of feel like you're on the property tour with us. When you go look at a property with a real estate agent, the real estate agent isn't just saying, "This is the kitchen."
3 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,500 square feet.
That's not
That's not what you should expect from your experience with an agent. Your agent should be pointing things out to you, and I think that you do a good job of that when you do your property tours.
Thank you, thank you. I know your opinion
And
is
I think,
biased.
of course, you're my husband,
Yes.
but still.
But we are going after, again, this individual made a comment, and I'm glad they brought this comment to us. We are going for a certain type of product. The product mirrors another product we offer, which is
Virtual property
our
tours.
virtual property tour. So when a client is moving from overseas, or they just have a
Out of
busy
state.
schedule
Mhm.
and they're not able to see properties, we provide a tour that's actually similar to our new construction property tour. Now, our virtual property tour is going to be more negative, in the sense that we're looking for the negative aspects of the property that are hidden from our
That you
clients.
can't see in the pictures.
Right.
Mhm.
And so the property tour that is virtual is me talking the entire time.
Mhm.
So what this individual dislikes about this tour, our clients love.
Mhm.
And that's all we really are concerned about, is clients and future clients. So to the individual who left the comment that said that they dislike these types of videos, please go find a channel that suits your needs.
And there are other channels
Yes.
on most of the properties. Now, we have pretty much all the new construction in Northern Virginia on our channel, but there are other agents, and most of the properties that you've toured have been toured by at least one other agent. So there are options available if you would prefer a silent tour.
Yes. I will add, though, we do have the largest collection of property tours on one channel. So you will have to go and piecemeal all of those experiences. And we're about to add Stafford to our channel. So that's the only piece of the new construction market that's missing from our channel at this time, is Stafford.
That is true.
Excellent. All right. So now we're going into
I was just seeing if there are any other comments before we move forward.
All right, so seller question number 6, and this is from 100 questions every seller should ask. And this is, what is curb appeal? All right, so before you go into your points, because I saw your notes about this,
Okay.
I want to add something that's not mentioned here. Curb appeal is this idea or this concept where we're talking about the exterior of the property, the subject property, or the property that you're interested in. I disagree with this concept that curb appeal is only for the property that you're interested in, because a lot of our clients are judging the neighborhood, they're judging the surrounding, they're judging
Mhm.
the community. So I would say that curb appeal, and this kind of ties in nicely to the HOA conversation. Curb appeal is the feeling that someone gets when they drive into the community.
Mhm.
So it doesn't it doesn't just represent the property itself, because people are, when they make an investment into a home.
They're thinking about the whole neighborhood. In which great point, because 2 weeks ago you showed some properties in, it wasn't Mount Vernon, but it was in that 22309 zip code.
Right, yes,
And
yes, I
as
remember.
you and the buyers pulled up, they're like,
I'm not living here.
they're like, well, we don't need to go inside.
Right.
We're good on that, right?
Yes, and that was the
Um,
curb appeal,
yeah,
right?
that
And
was a
that
curb appeal.
that is
So
the
it's
curb
not
appeal.
just, and so, but we're on the seller side. What can you do? If you live in an HOA, hopefully, they have set the standard and set the stage for what is and what is not acceptable as far as exterior maintenance for homes. But even still, the area is going to have a lot to do with that curb appeal, on a broader scope. But the curb appeal is described as what the buyer sees and what your home looks like from the curb or the sidewalk to your front door. So she makes a point here that says that almost 90% of home buyers begin their search online. This book was written in the early 2000s. So what we want to say to that is actually this book was written in the 90s. This is
Late
a seller
90s,
book, the late
yes.
90s. That number is far closer to 100% now. And so the curb appeal isn't just about the feel that a buyer gets when they walk up to your property, but it's also about the impression that your home makes online. So that means the very first impression of your online marketing as well. So you want your curb appeal to be on point from the time that you list your property or when you're in pre-marketing coming soon, all the way until your home is sold.
Yes, a lot has changed in real estate marketing because I've been in business for 14 years. When I first started out in business, a buyer would get the address of the property, and sometimes they would actually go drive to see the property because we didn't really have as many photos online. They would actually go drive and see the properties to see what the exterior looks like. Now, that is really no longer the case. Now buyers, we just schedule showings and then we go see every property that's on the
Hmm.
list.
Yeah. So what you want to do is you want to make sure that you know up front that just that first picture, the first picture in listings is typically going to be the exterior main. Some agents like to, add a little pizzazz and throw the kitchen as the first picture, but for like nearly all listings, the very first picture is going to be the exterior main. And that's where you catch your buyer. That is where you entice them to click through to see the other pictures. So when you're having those pictures done, you want to make sure that your grass is cut, that the house is clean on the exterior. Maybe depending on the season, there's a potted flower or plant out front, but no car in a driveway, just the things that will make the house show in its absolute best form.
All the windows cleaned,
Mhm.
the blinds open, the lights on. These are really things that you would do to prepare for the photo session, which again, Crystal was mentioning your online curb appeal.
Mhm. Well, and also just think about the fact that you only get this very first chance to make an impression on the buyer. Now, granted, you could have a fantastic home on the inside, but if they never click past that first picture, they're not going to know. So the exterior tells a story. It tells your prospective buyers who you are or what type of home you keep. So if the curb appeal isn't there, they may assume, well, if they can't keep the outside of the house tidy, then what are the chances I'm going to be interested in the interior?
Also, there are a lot of expensive repairs that are tied to just the exterior maintenance. So whether or not the brick is cracking, whether or not the driveway needs to be repaired, if the roof looks like it's peeling or lifting up, or it has some type of growth on top of it, if the window seals have rot on it, these are just signs that tell the buyer that the maintenance on the exterior wasn't maintained, or the property wasn't maintained on the exterior, so the interior is probably similar. And this is what curb appeal does, right?
Mhm.
So people are judging a book by its cover.
Yes, this is true. So she goes on to say that the your exterior home is an extension of you, just like much of the rest of your home, right? So some of your personality is going to come out in if you have a green thumb or you envision yourself as someone who loves plants or whatever. If you have a lot of things going on in front of the home. Likewise, in the home, you may have a bunch of, knickknacks and things of that nature. Just like on the inside of the home, you want to kind of edit a little bit to make it so that the interior of the home can be seen. We covered that about maybe 1 or 2 questions ago, as far as how to make your home sellable. It's the same with the exterior, which is you just want to edit a little bit. If it's in the summertime, you may want to put a couple wicker chairs in the backyard. Maybe if you have a table out there, maybe take the cover off so it shows well. If you have a porch, which isn't many people, right? But if you have a porch, maybe put a little bench out there, put a couple flowers, whatever the case may be, so that it's welcoming and inviting to buyers. Because you want to remember that you are competing against all the other properties that this buyer may see. So you want every little advantage, including having your home power washed. If that's going to be the thing that puts you above the neighboring house 2 blocks down, then you need to give yourself every little bit of an edge that you can.
Before we go any further into curb appeal, you need to know that the purpose of curb appeal is to get the person to schedule a showing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So this game that we're playing as far as with marketing is to get the buyer to see the property. Buyers don't see every property that's on the market. They only have at most agents don't like to show more than 3 properties at a
Mm-hmm.
time to a buyer. So you're trying to be one of the 3 that they see during a given time period. Curb appeal is going to help you get to that outcome.
Absolutely. And this goes to something else. We'll talk about it in greater detail in a future question. But always tell our clients in our welcome email when they're getting ready for the photo session, I let them know lots of pictures are going to be taken. Lots of pictures are not going to make it to the listing because all we want to do is get enough pictures on there. Some usually for us is somewhere between like 15 and 25. Um, just enough to entice the buyer to schedule a showing. Not enough pictures that the buyer will rule the property out.
Yeah, I dislike a lot of photos. I mean, I think right now we could put like 100 photos.
We can put 400 photos now.
That's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
I don't need you to rule again. Our goal is to get you into the property. We're not trying to get you to rule the property out. We want you to rule the property out once you get to the property, because a lot of people make concessions when they get into the property, right? A lot of our buyer clients, when we work on the buy side, they're like, okay, I think I could deal with this this sunken living room, or I think I could live with these dated cabinets. I think I could live with this backyard. This sloped backyard. So there's different things that people just make concessions for.
Yes.
Once they get into the property. You don't want them ruling it out.
Absolutely. So let's see. So can curb appeal add value to your home? I think that the way that curb appeal adds value is that it gets more buyers inside the building. And the more buyers you have, then the more likely you are to get your price.
Yes, I would also add that since the goal of curb appeal is to get people into the property, look at your property like almost like an Instagram reel, where you're trying to you're trying to get the person to stop the scroll. You're trying to get them to say, oh, you know what, that is interesting, let me go take a look at this particular property. So I think it adds value in a sense that more people are interested, and then the when more people are interested in something, you think is more valuable.
And more showings can also lead to the home selling more quickly.
Exactly. Our clients, I love when our clients become a little nervous on the buy side when they can't get their showing at a given time. Like they realize, like, oh my goodness, somebody else is looking at it.
This is the hot property. I'm like, oh, I can't get Saturday at 2. Can we do 4? Right. So I think that helps with the sense of urgency for buyers also. And so what impact do you think bad curb appeal has on homes?
So we kind of hit on it earlier. Bad curb appeal leads the buyer to have these thoughts or questions about the property itself. So a bad curb appeal will lead the buyer to assume that the interior of the property isn't maintained. They're going to have work to do on the property. Also, keep in mind, online, you don't see the community. So bad curb appeal would give you the illusion that, oh, all of the houses must look like this.
Well, to continue what we're just saying, it also can reduce the number of showings because it can cause buyers to show away. And also it may not show as well to your neighbors. So again, typically, if let's say agents are showing 3 properties to a buyer on a given afternoon, if your home is the one that has a tricycle in the yard and the grass is a little brown, then what are the odds? And also think about this. A lot of the homes in Northern Virginia are very similar. Like if you're looking at a townhouse in Kingstowne, there's a little difference in, the layouts and different ones, but pretty much you're looking at a 3-level home with 3 to 4 bedrooms, usually somewhere between 2 full bathrooms to 3 full bathrooms, maybe a half bath or 2 half baths. That's pretty much it. Like the gist of it is that the homes are very similar. So you need every little bit of an edge to get your home to be the one that people want to make an offer on.
Yep. I would also add that because so many of the properties look the same, there you're almost getting your property to like some type of base level. So it's not going to stand out because a townhouse looks like a townhouse.
Mhm.
You just want to make sure that you have covered all your bases when it comes to preparing your property for its photo shoot.
Okay, now so some tips to improve your curb appeal. First up, the grass. You got to talk about the grass, landscaping, trees. Make sure that you don't really have to cut your grass so much here in the fall and winter time, right? Because it really stops growing around like October. But make sure that your lawn is well maintained, your grass is green as it should be. Any trees are pruned. If you have a bush that's dying or overgrown, that you trim that. So just make sure you're doing the maintenance that ideally would always be done. If you're not on top of it all the time, be on top of it now. Just make sure that it is showable and that it shows your home in the absolute best light. You want to make sure your gutters are clean, downspouts are also clean, and if necessary, give it a quick little power wash.
I would also add, make sure you review the condition of the shutters. A lot of properties have shutters on them, and the front door, the storm door as well. If you need to replace a storm doors are almost like a day job. It's a full day job, so just know that repainting the front door, repainting the shutters is going to help uh, make the property pop. Or also look around the casing of the windows as well. Those areas tend to be weathered, and the condition of the driveway, because in a townhouse, or even like a single family home that has a garage, a front garage, the driveway shows up in the photos, and we're not really allowed to doctor up those photos. So like the grass photos, the photographer can put some green grass in it, but we can't put like a fresh driveway because that doesn't exist.
And then a tip that she had in the book that I actually thought was great was that we live in our homes. And so you're in and out. Like, if you park in your garage, you may never even really see the front exterior of your house, right? Because you're in the garage, you pull out, you pull back in when you return home. So a tip that she had that I really liked was that you should walk out of your front door, make a loop around a block, and then walk up to your home and see what it says to you. See how your home looks. If you are able to view your home with new eyes, see what it looks like to someone who's walking up to it for the first time. And I think that that can give you an idea of some things that maybe you want to work on or change, or just give yourself a better idea of what it looks like to someone else coming up to it who's not pulling directly into the driveway.
All right. Any other things you want to? Okay. The last seller tip is, before you start working on your property, please, if you watch our videos, if you have a friend who's about to get into the real estate market, do not do anything to your property until your agent looks at it. Don't get into an extensive project. Don't change the colors. Don't do any repairs. Just have an agent come over and walk the property with you, please. Please. There's nothing worse than having a client who has done a bunch of work, then they call an agent over, and then the agent's like, we need to redo all the work you've already done.
Mhm.
And there is so much resistance once somebody has painted these walls a certain color or painted the front door. And you're like, hey, look, I think that that's a nice color for you.
Mhm.
That may not be a nice color for the market.
Yes. But also you can save yourself some money. A lot of times sellers feel like they have to make all these changes to the property in order to get it market ready. And sometimes it's like, hey, that doesn't matter. Save your money. You don't need to do that. So you should definitely consult an agent. When you meet with the agent, they'll provide you with a CMA. If you're in Northern Virginia, Abraham should be your agent. He'll provide you with a CMA, and he'll also
A
provide you with
CMA is
a comparative market analysis. I'm sorry. He'll provide you with the numbers and the comps to show you what other homes are selling for in your area. But he's also going to share with you the tips of things that you should do, and also let you know about the things that aren't necessary to do.
excellent. So that is seller question number 6. What is curb appeal? Did you have anything else you wanted to touch on with this particular topic?
I think that's all I have.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So we're going to stay on for a little bit longer to answer any questions that you may have, any real estate questions you may have about buying a home, selling a home, or in investing in real estate. While we get ready to answer your questions, there is a link in the description to the Perfect Home Questionnaire. Fill out that form, and we will schedule a time to meet online via Zoom to answer any and all your questions. And that's whether you're buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate. Use that link. That link is available on TikTok in our bio. We go live every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The show lasts about an hour. We have about an hour of like material where we'll go through a question about the buy side, sell side. We'll also look at market stats, talk about any hot topics, and we're here to answer your questions. So the goal is to make ourselves available 4 times a week to answer any questions that you may have, or your friends' questions, your neighbors. Send people to the show, let them know we're here, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You could put us on in the background while you're at work, right? Working from home. And that's it. That's it. So let's put on a little music now while
Very
we
good.
How do you feel with this show not having music on? Do you think that it's a good thing, bad thing?
It works for me with no music. I'm fine. Actually, I prefer it without music
You
because
prefer it without music?
in my in ear, the music is really loud. In order for me to hear myself on a mic, if the music
Oh,
is playing while I have my in ear in, it is really too loud for me. So I usually don't even if when the background music is playing, I usually have my in ear all the way down until the show starts.
gotcha. Oh, I didn't know that. Well, good. All right. So we will take any questions that you may have. We'll stay on for like 2 or 3 songs, or we'll stay on as long as you have questions. We have a couple people watching on YouTube, TikTok. Now, we are located in Northern Virginia, so we can answer any question that you may have about Northern Virginia real estate. We just learned on our TikTok channel that we need to get to 10,000 followers to be able to live stream from our multi-camera setup, or like our studio setup, versus this phone setup, which
Oh,
the phone is fine,
it's
but
fine, but the phone people can't see me,
they don't
so
even I
they
think
just hear.
they just hear me talking to somebody.
Yeah, they just hear my voice. So it'll be nice when we can have so you can get the full studio experience, and you'll also be able to see when Abraham shares things on the iPad, when he shares his screen, when we're doing numbers. So just a ways to go to get there.
So I think, yeah, we're gonna have to think about like how to get to 10,000 subscribers or followers on TikTok as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
You can just excuse yourself.
So what was I gonna say?
I don't
So
know.
we have something exciting going on in our immediate area. So Abraham said we live in Kingstowne. Our boys go to Hayfield Secondary, who are the defending state champs for basketball. So they won last night for the regional championship game, I think. So they play their the semifinal game tomorrow. So it's like a lot of buzz in our area about that. They play the semifinal tomorrow, and if they win tomorrow, that means they're going to go back to the state championship.
Will it be one game left after?
I believe after tomorrow's game, there's one more. The next game will be the final game.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It seemed like there would be more games.
I know it seems like it's gone rather quickly, but I think they've been playing every other day since the playoffs started. So that's exciting for us. One of our son's friends is a freshman. He plays on a varsity team. So this will be exciting. So, like I said, there's a lot of buzz in our neighborhood about that.
Another reason why you also should live in Kingstowne.
Another reason to live in Kingstowne, besides being our neighbors.
Mm-hmm. So this is our second day just going to AM only shows. How do you feel about the AM only time period?
How do I feel about the AM only time? I think it's great. I just think that it's going to be better overall for time management. We're still getting in the flow of things. We're doing a daily show, but I think it's going to be better for time management. I think it's a schedule that'll be easier for us to keep. right now we're in like the tail end of winter. Business will continue to get busier and busier as we move further into spring and summer. And I think it's just going to be too difficult to manage multiple shows as your appointments tick up, and as also just negotiation. So it's not even just about the showings, it's also about all the work that goes into having so many showings, which is writing offers, having appointments, things like that. So it's just, I just think that one show a day is easier to commit to because I can block this time off on your calendar, and that's that. For those of you that don't know, I am Abraham's assistant, and so
And wife.
I am also his wife.
Yeah.
But I'm Abraham's assistant, so I
she's my
manage
wife.
his calendar. And so when he likes to pack lots of things into the day, it can just make it more difficult for me as far as managing his days.
I also think that the morning show allows us to be fresh.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if we have a long day, that 8 p.m. show is brutal.
Mm-hmm. See, for me, I have a lot of energy in the evening, so I enjoy the 8 p.m. show. I think that the real issue for me is that I'm so tired for the morning show the next day. So I really do enjoy the evening show. I feel like the energy is great. There are more viewers during the live stream, which means more questions, which in the questions I think make the show that much better. But I think that for consistency's sake, that the morning show is the way to go. So.
Yeah, I mean, I still have kids, so my
You
kids
do.
are. Yeah,
You
my
don't
kids
say.
my kids are coming home from school.
Well,
in
they're
the
usually
evening.
home well before 8 p.m. Just so you guys know, they're usually home well before 8 p.m. But they are a demanding bunch, so they would like FaceTime even at the 8 p.m. hour.
Post your questions. Any questions you have about buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate, post those in the comment section. We will stay on for one more song.
You gonna play your favorite song?
I am. After this song goes off, then we'll play my favorite song.
Okay.
And that'll be the last call for questions.
Well, earlier you mentioned adding some Stafford new construction tours. So either I don't know, I think it's tomorrow afternoon. I actually have you recording some new construction in Stafford. You're recording a property tour for a client. So that means that while you're at the development, you'll also get to do the models for that builder. So that'll be some other content to go on the channel,
The YouTube
possibly
channel?
the YouTube channel later this week.
I actually think I have a new construction property tour I haven't put up on the YouTube channel.
What development?
I don't recall. I just feel like I'm missing one new construction property.
Okay.
I have to go through my library.
Okay. Well, let's take a look and see what our questions are going to be for tomorrow while we're waiting to see if anyone else has any more questions. What are we talking about tomorrow? As I said earlier, we're going to skip question number 38 since we don't typically use or need attorney approval in the sense that this author was referring to. So we're actually going to move on to a new part of the book. So we're going to start talking about negotiating the deal. And so question 39 is, how does the negotiation process work? So that's going to be our question tomorrow for the 100 questions a first-time homebuyer should ask. And it is a meaty question. It is several pages long. So that's going to be quite a bit of content to cover tomorrow. We're going to talk about now that you found a home, how to negotiate fairly, the difference between an offer and a counter offer, bidding wars. So Good stuff. That's tomorrow's video, negotiation strategies and negotiating into the future. So that's going to be tomorrow on our 100 questions every first time buyer should ask. And then as far as our 100 questions from a seller, we're going to talk about how you unclutter your home. So that's it.
Excellent. So, hey, thank you all so much for joining us on our show. We are here Monday through Thursday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to answer any questions that you all have about the real estate process, whether that's buying a home, selling a home, or investing in real estate in Northern Virginia. That's where we're located. There is a link in the description to the Perfect Home Questionnaire. Fill out that form if you are ready to start your real estate journey. Once you fill out that form, we'll schedule time to meet online via Zoom to answer any questions that you may have. Until tomorrow's show, tomorrow is what, Wednesday?
Tomorrow is Thursday. Today is Wednesday. So tomorrow's the last show of the week.
Tomorrow's Thursday?
Monday was President's Day. Yesterday was Tuesday. Today is Wednesday.
Excellent. Okay, excellent. So tomorrow we'll see you for our last show of the week, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.